So, you're an absolute beast in training. You feel like Ma Long, you're crushing every ball, your counter loops on fire, your backhand, and you feel like you can't miss even if you tried. And then as soon as you go into a match, everything falls apart. You start missing shots that you don't usually miss, and you feel like you can't backhand loop even if your life depended on it. I think this is a problem every single one of us has faced in their table tennis journey. And it's all because of one single problem: confidence. Let's take an example. Imagine I put a gymnastics beam on the ground and told you if you're able to cross it without touching the ground, then I'll give you $100. You'll most likely say yes, right? Because the stakes are low. But what if I put that gymnastics beam on top of a building? Now I can pretty much guarantee every single one of you will say no. But the thing is, the task never changed. You still just need to cross that beam. The difference is that when it's on the ground, the stakes are low. If you fall off, you're still on the ground. You don't lose anything. But when you're on the beam, if you fall, you will die. So when the stakes are higher, you start thinking about, what if I miss? What if I fail? What if I fall off? And when you start to think like that, that's when you start to actually fail. And I think this is the difference between practice and matches for every single player. In practice, you're relaxed, you're not worried about making mistakes, and you're probably not even thinking about how you're playing. But then as soon as you go into a match, the stakes get higher. You're playing against someone you've never played before. He plays weird shots that you honestly don't know how to return. He has insane serves, and he's winning. So now you're under pressure. And that pressure causes you to tense up and start getting nervous. So all you're left wondering is, how can I start not getting nervous and start playing just like the pros? Then I have something to tell you. Did you know that actually most pros also get nervous? If you're getting nervous in your local league, then don't you think that Fan Zhendong will get nervous before playing the WTT final? The pros also feel tight, they also feel nervous. But the difference is that they're able to play well despite that nervousness. So I have a quote from Roger Federer, which I think explains it perfectly. He says, "I do get nervous, and I'm happy that I do. I feel that way because it means I care. It's not like I'm going through the motions. That would be a horrible thing." So you can see even Roger Federer gets nervous. But the thing is, he's not trying to hide from that nervousness and run away from it. He's actually embracing it, and he says that it's a good thing because it means that he cares. Okay, so even pros get nervous, but how are they able to play well despite that nervousness? It's simple. It's because they're used to it. The more matches you play, the more your body gets used to actually being nervous and gets used to playing despite the nerves. I remember my first competition actually. I remember my hand was literally shaking. On the receive, I would literally be shaking like that. And now I still feel nervous, it's the same thing. But I'm not shaking. My body got used to it. But here's the thing. If you're playing matches without feedback after the matches, you'll just be repeating the same mistakes over and over and over again. And that's exactly why I created my free community, so that we can all send in our matches or training footage and then get feedback from everyone, including me, so that we can all improve together and reach our table tennis goals. So if you're interested, click the link in the description. And that leads me to my next point, which is that you have to change your mindset about making mistakes. Mistakes are completely normal and they're a part of the game. Even at the highest level. I think if you search on YouTube or something, you can find literally like a 10-minute footage of pros missing easy shots. It's normal, everyone makes mistakes. But the difference is how you handle it. The best players, after they lose an easy point, they just reset and start thinking about the next one. If you start thinking about this one, it will negatively affect all your points after that. And this was in the past, so you can't change anything about it. The only thing you can do now is stop thinking about it and start thinking about the next points. And most of the time we're not actually losing, we're making ourselves lose because we're always overthinking and worrying about every mistake we make, and that just leads to us playing safe and not playing to our best level. Okay, so the main reason you play worse in matches than in practice is because in practice you're playing against the same opponent every time. You've pretty much memorized how he plays. You start doing drills, you've memorized how he blocks, you know exactly where the ball will go, and you're just looping over and over and over again. But that never actually happens in matches. And I think you can notice this too. As soon as your opponent does some kind of weird shot, or he starts to play where you're not expecting it, you start to lose immediately. It's because you don't have feeling in your hand. A lot of players just do the technique correctly, but they don't feel the ball on their hand while they're contacting it. And that's really important. You need to feel it so that you're able to adjust. Maybe this ball has a little bit less backspin. The technique won't allow you to get it back on the table. It's the feeling in your hand that would let it guide it over the net and onto the table. To develop it, I recommend start slowing down your shots. Focus on getting the right contact, the right timing, and feeling the ball when you're contacting it. It's not like you're just looping and you're not feeling. Feel the ball when you're contacting it, and slow it down at first. Start actually feeling the ball and focus on the consistency and on the feeling, like we said. And then start increasing the speed slowly, so that you can actually feel the ball when you're attacking. You're not just attacking without knowing if it's going on or not. And tip number 2, start playing more matches. I said this in the beginning of the video, but I say it again because it's very important. Start playing more matches. I see a lot of players, they go to practice, they go hit a few forehand loops, do a few drills, and then leave. But how are you gonna implement the things that you learned in practice in games? You need to be able to play games so that you can start getting the balls that you're not used to. In practice, your opponent's just blocking. You need to get used to other types of shots and not knowing where the ball will go and being able to adjust. There's lots of things that happen in game that you can't replicate in a normal practice. You need to actually play games. And the cool thing you can do so that you can train your body to play better despite the nervousness is start making consequences for the loser. So the loser could, for example, buy dinner for the one who won. Or maybe he has to do 100 push-ups. Find a consequence for the loser so that you're not just playing for fun. There is actually a competition and you want to actually win, so that you don't do the consequence. And that could be a really fun way to do it too. And the last tip, and which I think is by far the most important one, is to focus more on the serve and receive. Most players, they focus on their technique. They get a big forehand, they get a big backhand, but they don't focus on the stuff that actually matters. If you can't return your opponent's serve, how can you expect to get your big forehand in? The receive and the serve and like the small technical stuff close to the net is really important, and no one actually focuses on it. But that gives you a huge advantage if you actually do. Since no one's focusing on it, no one's actually good at it. So if you actually start becoming good at it, you get really good serves, you get really good at receives. The important stuff, if you start getting good at that, you will start winning easily. And that's something we always talk about in the community. It's to actually focus on serves, serve receives, tactics, stuff like that. And by the way, I've made a full guide on how to return literally any type of serve. And I give you tips that no one talks about. So if you want to watch it here.